Hello there guys, it's LazyBeast here with a guide for you today all about Season 2 gearing in Dragonflight. There's been some changes made to how you're going to gear up in patch 10.1 and there's a brand new upgrade system. There is indeed a new gear upgrading system coming in patch 10.1 and I know that some people have been a little bit confused about how this exactly works, so I'm going to do my best to explain that in the simplest way as possible to help you understand how to get yourself the best gear based on the content that you do in the patch. So let's take a look at the item levels. So the absolute max item level for a piece of gear that you can get in this patch will come from the mythic raid, as you would imagine, and the raid bosses still have these super rare items on their loot table, which always drop at a slightly higher item level than the normal gear that they drop. So there is a piece of gear that's item level 457, which is a cape that drops from the last boss on Mythic difficulty, Scale Commander Sarkareth from the new raid. And there are some other pretty cool items to look forward to hopefully getting for yourself on the rare sort of loot table for some bosses. There's the cape that we just mentioned, there's some trinkets as well, some other things, and there's a lovely agility polearm which I'm really hoping to get on my Feral Druid. Fingers crossed. So you can see the table here for the item level drops from the raid. So Mythic is between 441 and 450, Heroic 428 to 444 and is upgradable by 1 rank, and normal raid loot goes from 424 to 431 and is upgradable by 4 ranks. So for example, if you got a piece of gear dropping from the normal raid at item level 424 at rank 4 of the champion tier, I'll explain more on this in a bit, you could upgrade that all the way to item level 437 using 4 Worms Shadow Flame crests that you get from doing the raid on Heroic. So you can keep that piece of gear from normal and still make it useful and relevant as you progress into Heroic. So gear that you get from normal can be useful for quite a while through the upgrade system, which is quite nice. So I'll just mention a couple of little tweaks to the Great Vault and then we'll talk about the new upgrade system after that. So with the Great Vault, there's been some slight adjustments to the amount of bosses needed to unlock the raid slot sections, as the raid in 10.1 has more bosses than the raid did in the last tier. So the slots will now unlock at 3, 5 and 7 boss kills rather than 2, 4 and 6 as it was last season. Another nice change to raiders from the vault is that what used to be the case is you would only get loot in your vault from raid bosses that you had killed on that difficulty, but now the way it works, if you go into normal raid for example and you kill the last boss and only the last boss, you will still be eligible to get loot from all the other previous bosses in your Great Vault that week. So that's quite nice, it saves you having to clear the whole raid. You could argue that this does make it a bit more difficult to target specific pieces of gear, potentially, but I think on the whole this is a good change. The second season of Dragonflight does also come with some new tier sets and tier set bonuses for everybody, for all the classes, so items that come from the vault can still be tier pieces like gear from rated PvP, Mythic Plus and of course the raid. You can still get tier pieces in your vault. Okay, so let's dive into the new upgrade system. How does it work? So any gear that you get from the open world, from the raid, or from Mythic Plus for example, can be upgraded using this new system. It won't work on PvP gear, and it won't work on top end items like things from the Mythic raid, or crafted gear for example. For Mythic Plus, Valor is being completely removed and replaced by this new system. There are some similarities to how Valor used to work, but it's just a bit more complex system, so let's explain it. So you're going to get access to 2 new currencies, Flight Stones and Crests. So Flight Stones are the more simple thing. You'll basically get this from doing any activity in the game, whether that be world content or dungeons or PvP, that kind of thing. Any content you do, you will start to gather Flight Stones. So Flight Stones do have a cap of 2,000 being able to be held by one player at one given time, and you can find these in your currencies tab to make sure you can check how many you've got, but it doesn't mean that you can't earn any more once you've got 2,000. You can just spend some and then go out and earn some more. So there's never a cap in terms of time, it's just a sort of physical limit that you can carry at any one given time, if that makes sense. So as you can imagine, Flight Stones are fairly simple. Where it gets a little bit more complex is when we get to the crests. Now these come in 4 varieties. Now there's tiers of sort of gear. So the lower item level gear starts at Adventurer, then it goes up to Veteran, then Champion, and then Hero. And the different types of crests correspond to the different levels of gear. So it starts off with Whelpling, Drakes, Worms, and then Aspects. So when you're upgrading a piece of gear, depending on what level you want to upgrade it to, like how many tiers you want to upgrade it, and what item level that gear is currently at, you'll need a certain amount of Flight Stones and a certain amount of type of crests as well. Now if you're doing a massive upgrade, you might for example need 4 Drake Shadow Flames crests and 1 Worm Shadow Flame crests. It just depends on the level you're trying to get that piece of gear to. Now I know that this might sound kind of confusing, and it sort of is a little bit, but it's good because the tooltips are quite handy when it comes to these pieces of gear. So if you've got a piece of gear, it'll tell you at what rank and what level of that rank the piece of gear is already at, and when you go to upgrade it, and you can upgrade the gear from any of the upgrade vendors in the game, it doesn't have to be the one in Loam in Zaralek Caverns, it can be the one in Valdrakken for example too, like nearby the PvP vendors. You can use any upgrade vendor you want. So if you're trying to get a gear to a certain desired item level, you can put it in, you can select that level and see exactly what currency you need to get for it and know where you're going to get that currency from. For example, if you want to get some more worms at Shadowflame's crests, then you'll need to do content such as Mythic Plus dungeons between level 11 and 15, or kill bosses from the raid on heroic difficulty. So it'll make it quite clear what you need to do and where you can get that from. So with the crests, there is a cap initially. You can only get 10 of each type per week, so that's 10 completed crests, not the fragments, and we'll get onto that in a second too. But this cap is going to increase gradually over time. So say for example it's 10 in the first week, 10 of each type. In the second week it might be 20 of each type, and if you only start in the second week, you can still go out there and just get 20 as quick as you want to. You're not gated by only 10 per week and 10 the week after, that kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. So similar to Flightstones, you can get fragments of these crests from doing any sort of activity around the world, or obviously doing raid or Mythic Plus content. Now you can also buy some fragments, because there are chests that you can buy that contain a certain amount of fragments, available once per week per type, from a vendor called Spinsower in Loam, using a currency that you get called Unearthed Fragment Coins. Now you can get these coins from completing the public events around the Zaralek Caverns, which is the new 10.1 zone. So yeah, that's another guaranteed source of fragments that are going to be able to create into crests. So hopefully that's helped you understand a bit more about that system, but if you do think it's quite complex, don't worry, because when you actually get into the game and look at it and use the system, it's pretty straightforward. There is an introductory quest line to this too, so you'll get some free crests and Flightstones as you do the campaign, go into Zaralek Caverns, so yeah, don't worry about it too much. And the good thing is with this, Blizzard are obviously trying new things, and they are very receptive currently to player feedback, so if you do think the system is a load of rubbish, then tell them, and hopefully they probably will listen. So you might be also thinking now about crafted gear, so what's the situation with that? So, you can take any crafted gear that you've got from Season 1 and upgrade that to a Season 2 piece of crafted gear, just straight away. Or you have got the option to craft a brand new piece of gear starting at Season 2 item levels if you want to. So there's a new Spark of Ingenuity replacement ingredient which is called the Spark of Shadowflame, that's a Season 2 version of the Spark of Ingenuity. And there's been some quality of life improvements to the way that you can acquire these as well. So they work in the exact same way as crafted gear did in Season 1, although this time you don't have to go completing content with a small chance of getting a spark to drop, you know, after the initial 5 that we got at the start of Season 1. So you'll just guaranteed get one of these every 2 weeks. As it comes in 2 pieces, you'll get one half each week, and then you can create that into a full one every second week. Any enchanters out there will also be able to create enchanted Shadowflame crests, which can then be used to set the item level range of a piece of crafted gear, exactly the same again as you did in Season 1 gear, Season 1 crafted gear, to create higher quality base level crafts, or of course use the recrafting system to improve the item level of a piece of existing gear. So yeah, no massive changes to crafting gear, pretty straightforward. So when it comes to the Revival Catalyst, you may be wondering about this because there are of course some new tier set bonuses coming with Season 2, some of them are quite nice, some of them are pretty pants, looking at you, Feral Druid. So this is going to open up 6 weeks after the patch drops. It still serves the exact same function and works in the exact same way, converting non-tier pieces of gear into tier pieces, but there are some slight tweaks this time. So there won't be a weekly quest to complete to gain a charge of the catalyst, you're just going to get granted 1 charge each week which will stack, and that's absolutely fine. They're making it friendly for transmoggers too, so if you're looking to complete any sets from Season 1, this will come later in a patch though, so apparently they're going to make it so that you can upgrade Season 1 gear into tier, and it won't actually cost you a charge of the catalyst, which is quite nice. So just one thing to bear in mind if you're still missing some sets that you want from there. So that pretty much sums up the item upgrade and gearing up systems in patch 10.1. If you haven't got any questions, do feel free to comment below and I will do my best to answer them for you as quickly as I can. Thanks for watching guys, I've been LazyBeast and I'll catch you next time. And if you do enjoy this content, please consider subscribing for more guides like this about World of Warcraft. Take care, all the best, cheers.